Hello, friendos. It's been about a month and a half since the Switch 2 released, and going by my speed and obviously ignoring any particular algorithms because we just gotta keep that type of thing going on, I figured time to give my actual impressions of the system, plus kind of like a mini review of the reason why I got the system, which is Donkey Kong Bonanza. So, first and foremost, this is gonna be kind of an unscripted one, so you're gonna probably hear a lot of pauses and a bunch of ums and uhs, trying to process a lot of the words I have, because I feel like it's gonna be a little bit more candid. So first off, I got to try out the Switch first with the bundle because everyone else around me wanted to try that Mario Kart World, where I personally was not concerned about getting it until much later in the life. I mean, it's Mario Kart. It's going to be around for a while. I could get one of the reprints where it has a lot of the updates and all that, because we all know it's going to happen. But, so we decided to pick that up, and on top of that, picked up the physical editions of Guardians of Azuma and Cyberpunk, because since they are the only physical editions that actually matter, I figured to actually give them that support. Now, my dabbling with those games have been pretty small as of late, because it's just been a lot of major projects, but for the most part, those two games were showcasing a lot of the first impressions of my system and my experience with the system pretty well. I am actually quite surprised how fast and fluid Cyberpunk does run on the Switch 2, considering that the Switch 1 ports of several games before them that would kind of have that same downgrade would essentially have a lot of these jittering and staggering type of experiences, but Cyberpunk's 2077 was actually really good with keeping it pretty smooth. And the only thing I can make a comparison to that is when the Switch 1 got the original Doom 2016 game ported down. As a weird technical marvel as that was, it still had a lot of struggling frame rate issues when more than two demons would come up and start tossing a bunch of flaring fire particle effects. So that was cool. I know there's been future Switch games that actually looked better than the Doom port and did it better and all that, but we're talking about early ports of stuff that seems like it probably just wouldn't work. But CD Projekt Red really did a wonderful job with it. It actually looks pretty good too. It's not as good as if you ran the PC on the super graphic mode, but it looks good enough that everything plays and fundamentally still feels very immersive, so it doesn't feel like you're playing in a claymated video knockoff version of the game. Of course, the system itself, the overall experience has been pretty much the same way as the Switch. It's been great. I've been able to play the games I wanted to play, and with it being 98% backwards compatible, I've been able to finish some of the games that I still haven't even started on the original Switch 1, but it forces with the raw horsepower to actually run a little bit better. Subnautica's been one of the ones that's experienced that with that brute force. It's just no, you're not going to crash anymore. And same thing with the Yakuza Kiwami. It runs pretty nice as far as what I've experienced and stuff. This is, one of those things. And one of the biggest impressions that I've had so far has been the eShop. The Switch 1's eShop was probably one of the worst digital storefronts I've had. And it is just a constant slog to go through any of that stuff. And as much as the layout for stuff like the Wii U and I think it's the original PS3. I would have to play it again to see where the storefronts kind of felt. Nothing has ever really been as organized as those two. Like, since then, it's actually kind of tragic. But with the Switch 2 being basically the same as the Switch 1 as far as the layout goes, it's not as, a big change you have to wrap your head around, but it plays and gets, like, you can navigate through it so much more smoothly. I am probably going to buy a few more digital indie games on it just because I have that ability. And it literally runs smoother than the ROG Ally's Steam app. The Steam app on the ROG Ally, for some reason, every other update, it turns into just touch control mode only. And it's just frustrating because you're dealing with the load times and all that crap. Because it's trying to load a lot of other background shit too. Like, Steam's app for portable game systems just genuinely suck. Like, just genuinely suck. And in that contrast, like, the Steam 2's just been a greater, more refreshing experience between that and the horrible experience with the Switch 1 eShop. In fact, I've been just browsing shit just because it's been fun to just browse to finally actually see what other games I can actually try and what other games I missed because maybe I didn't play for a month or whatever. And it's been good. It's been good. And so, that's the original experience what I've had with the Nintendo Switch 2. And then I finally was able to get the game. There was a whole reason why I got the system to begin with for, which is Donkey Kong Bananza. For many of you who might not know me, my favorite game series is the Donkey Kong Country Returns. Not Returns, but those are added to it. But the Donkey Kong Country, trilogy. So, one of my favorite characters is clearly Donkey Kong because of that. It's been great. I always liked him because it was more of a self-driven, self-goal-oriented character. Pardon me. He essentially didn't ever be called upon to do greater things. He didn't become a chosen hero. He was never prophesized to be the greatest thing ever. He's just a monkey who wants to hang out with his bros and eat bananas, and some dumbass retarded crocodile or mask or Arctic things decided, you know what? We want your bananas. And if nobody wants bananas that bad. Alright, let the dude have his bananas. None of y'all need that crap. Especially King K. Rool. You're a carnivore through and through. I don't know why you're doing this. This is stupid. But that's just that's his own goal. It's like, hey man, you just harshed my vibes. And this is upsetting me. And you just go ape. And it's great. And I love it. And it's just, I feel very connected to that monkey because of it. Plus, I mean, he's 4 times bigger than me because goblins aren't that big. But now that I got Donkey Kong Bananza, and I got to finally try it, and I gave it a whole week to try. Dude, I can't put that thing down. I'm actually almost done beating the game. I'm not going to put any spoilers out there or anything like that, but it's been, it's just been a blast. A lot of the times, I just want to just destroy a bunch of crap. Just go into that, Super Kong mode that you get early on in the game and just punch the crap out of everything. It's satisfying. I don't know why it's so satisfying. I was half expecting it to be just, Mario Odyssey light. Oh yeah, there's some interesting platforming, you have some destruction and stuff like that. But it's basically an experimental version of Mario Odyssey. Now, I'm a big fan of Mario Odyssey, but it's not even in my top 10 games. It's a great, solid platformer. And I actually rate it higher than Galaxy in Galaxy 2. And most people think I'm just nuts for it. I like interconnected worlds. Pardon me. I just genuinely like the ability to go from one place to the other, and even if it's tied to a hub world, I like the way games make you feel like every action you take, everything you do is interconnected. I'm not opposed to like level selections and stuff like that, such as Mario Galaxy 2 did, but at the same time, I'd much rather have just something where it feels all interconnected. I still firmly believe to this day that Banjo-Kazooie's world building is probably still some of the best, followed by like a distant further Vex, and then Mario, as far as this like world building for each individual game. Because Mario does have a habit of just becoming other types of games when you're even talking about 3D world type games. Good example is 3D World. It's all levels, it's all courses. It as much as it is fun, that game ranks way lower on my fame than any 3D Mario like platformer style game is. And I expected Donkey Kong Bonanza to basically be Mario Odyssey but monkey. And it isn't. It oddly isn't. And I'm really relieved by that. I actually really enjoy the fact that Donkey Kong feels so much different than a Mario game is. Like there's a lot of sense of brute force where like, you know what? I'm just gonna go that direction and you can't stop me, and it just feels good to do that. There's times where you can even cheese the game and it just feels great to do because you're just like, no, screw it, we're just doing this way. Yeehaw. And it's great. I actually really like that. And just allowing you to do that because it just feels very Donkey Kong minded. Because it's just like, no, I don't want to help you out in finding your discs and getting cool powers. I want to go straight to the dude who took my bananas and punch his butt in the head. And it's great. I really enjoy that. I really enjoy this game. In fact, this game alone has actually made me feel good about buying the Nintendo Switch 2 now. Now, I'm a huge Nintendo fan, of course. Like, let's be honest. I am a Nintendo fan because my favorite franchises, period, the majority of them are ones that Nintendo makes. It would be dumb for me to hate on a system and then buy a different system and just hope that Nintendo tanks so they can. Nintendo's never gonna do that. Nintendo's methodology and like finances are so good that they're never gonna leave the position they're in. So it makes sense. Even if I don't like the system, such as the Wii and the Wii U, there's always something that made me feel like, you know what, it was worth me buying this system. And for the most part, I still genuinely, like, it made me feel very confident with the purchase I had with the Switch 2. Like, it's been great. I could have waited about a year if Donkey Kong Bonanza wasn't around. Like, it's like every other game out there is either a port or games that just don't seem interesting to me. I could wait a year. I'm not too much of a fan of Mario Kart World. Metroid Prime is fucking garbage for the Metroid series, yet I'm the only one that apparently sees it that way. And then there's Pokemon, which I've gone out of since Gen 3 because quite literally they just became too many of the same crap all the time. Although I will admit some of the mechanics, like fight mechanics, have been interesting to watch from an outside source, but there was no way I was going to get involved with some of the stuff that they do. So I'm not thrilled. I'm not excited with this first year so far. That doesn't mean that I'm not interested in the system, but if it wasn't for Donkey Kong Bonanza, I wouldn't be as excited. I just genuinely wouldn't be. But I would have eventually gotten it anyway, and I would have been pretty content with it. The ports, obviously they're not going to be for everyone. I understand there's a lot of people who think they're just shoving it down your throat. Dude, if you already have it, don't buy it. Like, you can play that original version of that game from the Switch 1. You can even buy a Switch 1 if you don't have one to play that game. Why are you bitching? You know, like, obviously, like, I've seen a lot of people who complained about these ports who don't even own a Switch 1, and it makes no sense because I'm like, dude, first of all, the teams that are porting these are smaller teams. They're not using like Onuma to make the ports. Like, he's working on his project, and a smaller team that's just probably a skeleton crew is making these ports fundamentally work on the new system. And those are for the people who are either diehard like Zelda fans or Kirby fans or whatever else is being ported and wanted a little bit extra, or the people who are new into adopting a new system and decided to wait out the Switch's last few years to get the new system and decided, you know what, I want to see what the hubbub is about Zelda. I'm not even a fan of those two games. Those two games are alright, but these open world games are just always so empty and useless. It's just, it bores me fast. But those games are not for me. Again, like, I have them on the original Switch. The ports are not for me. If I am upset with that, I can just not buy them. But those games who are being ported, that are being bought, you think that they're just going to be funding the next port a little bit, but a good portion of that's probably going to go into the next development of the next big game that they have. Like, Nintendo EAD has 5 separate teams. They have Splatoon Raiders kind of around the corner there, and they have like several other teams who do the certain work for Mario Party. They do certain work for ARMS. They do certain work, like, they have a few people that can do a lot of these other projects that are not even announced yet. So I'm not even worried about that. But for the most part, like, this is literally me just kind of ranting and raving and kind of doing my little review and stuff. But I think it's been a great system to get. Now, I don't think it's going to be the best system. I also don't generally think that the Switch 2 can eclipse the Switch 1. I think there will be a Switch plateau within the Switch 2 because the Switch 1 was such a dominant force to outsell everything everywhere. And it's on the fast track to even eclipse the PS2 because, let's be honest, Nintendo's not going to cut ties of the Switch 1 games and the Switch 1 console out the gate. In fact, it's even got new games coming out this year that I'm more excited about to getting than on the Switch 2. And quite honestly, I'm like, I think there's going to be a point where some people are like, I don't want to get a Switch 2 because I already got all the things I want on the Switch 1 and just call it a day. And then there will be people who probably will pick up the Switch 2 at the end of the life cycle, where other ones will just wait it out and hop onto whatever comes out after the Switch 2. And so I don't think it's going to be as successful, to be perfectly honest. It's going to be wildly successful. It already broke records being the fastest selling console ever, everywhere. But that momentum I do not think will retain. I'm being genuinely honest when I think the retainment for that such a system is going to be a hard sell. It's genuinely going to be a hard sell. But that's just me. Outside that, literally the thing that really gets my goat is this game key card shit, because when you dig deeper into it, you're gonna see a lot of like, I can sell this digital game that's not really digital and not really physical, like it's this amorphous blob of the worst possible things, with the one good thing with it is that you can sell it later, which is really a toxic thing, because then you are forced to sell all of your games as fast as you can to avoid ever having to hold on to game system carts that won't let you download the game later. And it's not even just on Nintendo's server reliability, but also the third parties can just turn it off on a whim, which I firmly believe will happen with EA first. EA even has Madden coming out. I fundamentally think in 2 years after Madden 26 is released, they're going to shut that thing off and like, oh, that's bad. Anyway, we got Madden 28 now. As garbage and uninterested as I am with EA and their games, I feel like that's the person that's going to like willingly do that to be an absolute douche canoe. It's just going to be awful. And I have seen so many companies trying to play off this whole thing of like, oh, well, it's, we're just keeping up with the times and this is the best. Nobody wants it. Nobody who wants to buy a physical copy wants that. And on top of that, you will have people who are uneducated in what a game key card is even outside being a parent and stuff, you'll just have people just like, it's physical. It's always been physical. You just buy it, right? And let's say with that fundamental problem, people come in and they're like, they buy it on a vacation, and then they plug it in, and they're like, no, you can't play it. That stuff's gonna leave a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths with a lot of companies. And that's going to be the way the people are going to learn that and understand what a game key card is going to make them feel worse about it than the people who found out about it before any of this came out. So I think that's going to be a very big stain, not just in like a black eye on Nintendo, but I also think it's going to be a bigger black eye on a lot of the third-party companies that are going to be out there trying this crap. I'm like, no, this is the new trendy thing. No, it's you just being garbage. And then on top of that, you're still charging $10 to $20 more for that version of the game that isn't even on the cart. Dude, most people who have the ability to buy the physical and want the physical, majority of them are willing to spend the $10 more, but you're telling them this is all you got, and it's just a genuinely crappy way to do it. So that's kind of my review with the whole Switch and Donkey Kong Bananza thing for me. I've been very much excited to see what happens here in the future. There's obviously some more Nintendo Directs, maybe 2 or 3 in the remaining parts of the year, and so far I'm gonna probably maybe pick up I don't know if I'm gonna pick up Pokemon. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. Like I just looked at the list and I'm like, oh wait, no, hang on. I might pick up Splatoon Raiders because that's a single player, and I actually kind of like the game's mechanics. But I just don't like playing online. One, internet sucks in the mausoleum, and two, most of the time it's just not as fun. Like if I want a game that's competitive, I will play a game that's competitive. If I could get a single player version of Splatoon, I want to play that. I like it because single players have pause buttons. So, but I would just like to thank you all for hearing me rant and rave again over the Nintendo Switch 2. And of course, we're going to have a bit more videos coming. It's kind of been a delay because there's been a lot more work with everything, but I assure you, we got some stuff going down the line. There's some crazy shit going on with the Collective Shout and Australian Karens because they hate everything that looks better than them, including ostriches and emus, because they collect necks like they're fucking Pokemon cards. So, y'all, hang tight, man. Might even cover that a little bit and see how everyone would like that information. And on top of that, we have some scripted stuff coming down the line. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to listen to me. And of course, as always, we'll see you on the other side.